since I was a little kid, I've had this need for a creative outlet, and I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about. I love the process of having an idea in my head and then, working through it and then having this tangible piece to look at and that, as a reflection of what that initial thought was. So my mom actually was telling me a story recently about when I was younger. She took me out to lunch and she said, Emily, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my first answer was, well, I don't want to be a bag lady. So apparently I was setting the bar really high. And she said, no, but what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to make things. So the only thing my mom could think of was, oh, okay, so she wants to be an architect. That's the only thing you can make and have a career. So later that summer we went to Chicago, and so she wanted to foster my interest and hopefully, help pave the way for my future career as this all-star architect. And so she arranged for an architectural tour of Chicago. So we go on the tour, and about 2 minutes in, I turned to my mom and said, Mom, this is so boring, let's go. So my parents were kind of like, all right, well, now what? So they kind of started observing what I was doing, and I was always drawing clothes. So I just loved, the shapes and the different fabrics and, being able to create something again. So for Christmas, when I was 10, they gave me a sewing machine, which sounds like a great idea, right? But as a 10-year-old, I opened it and thought, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with this? What is it, like 1800? Like, this is for like old ladies. But it actually ended up being the best gift I ever received because I ended up, making doll clothes and then made my clothes all through middle school and high school and, all my prom dresses. It was kind of the unofficial beginning of my design career. So then I, went to college and didn't really think that fashion design was necessarily an option. So I studied economics at Boston University, and meanwhile found out that they had this great costume production program. And so kind of weaseled my way into this program. It was very small classes, and just loved it. Did all these very intricate period costumes. And so finally graduated with my degree in economics and decided, okay, well now I can really go after my passion. So I went to Parsons, I got my design degree, worked for several people as a designer, and then finally launched my own line. So the thing I love most about my job is that I'm constantly looking for inspiration. So whether it's while I'm traveling, or whether it's from artwork, or from people on the street, and now, even more than ever, I am very inspired by architecture, so my mom wasn't totally off. I'm just constantly kind of keeping my eyes open and my mind open and just letting things come to me as I'm living my life. And so one example is this print, so The Great Wave of Kanagawa by Hokusai. This is a print that's been in my life for as long as I can remember. I inherited a t-shirt from my brother when I was a kid. I still wear it to bed. It's totally ratty and gross, but this print just keeps coming up in my life. And I think what's interesting about it is that it looks kind of straightforward, right? It's kind of flat. There's not a lot of texture, but the colors are really soothing. The matter, the actual technique is very kind of static. It's a woodblock print. You're just kind of putting a stamp on the paper. But then you start looking at the wave, and it's got this, so much action to it. It's so huge. It's kind of towering over everything else. And you've got these really delicate little fingers of the wave, and the spray of the ocean. So there's just a lot going on, a lot of juxtaposition, and it's something that's always been really inspiring to me. So I decided to use it as kind of the launching point for my first collection. So I created a mood board, and you can see not everything on this mood board necessarily directly relates to each other, but they all kind of, convey the same message. I knew I wanted to talk to a woman who was strong and powerful, but also not afraid to be delicate and feminine. So you'll see, the palette is obviously at the bottom here. It's very easy to see how it was drawn from the colors of these different images. But even like this, the African face painting at the top, you see the kind of rough, random dots that you see in the spray of the wave, and then you see this really delicate kind of floral adornment that, again, are in the kind of like those soft, delicate fingers of the wave. And then you see all the feminine details of the braid and the bow. So I wanted my woman to be strong, feminine, and worldly. So from there, I was able to create some of the design details. So you'll see this dot print that I created is directly drawn from those kind of rough, spray and the rough dots on the painting. The braid detail was incorporated. This is a beautiful Japanese cotton that has kind of a braid feel to it. And then I actually added braid details, braided the fabric and added it as to accessorize different styles. And then this crochet at the bottom, I kind of thought of it as like, the people in the boats were probably out fishing, so you're thinking of like the fishing net, being thrown over the side. And then this tucking. So every season I try to find a design detail that I kind of weave throughout the collection. It's something special, and it means something to me. And so I found this tucking on a vintage piece, and I thought it was beautiful and delicate, and it was everything I wanted in my first collection, except for it was very hard to execute in the United States. Great to do it overseas, it's really cheap, but I do everything in the US, and it literally became the bane of my existence. So much so that, I don't normally cuss, but we started calling it the something that rhymes with tucking, so the blinking tucking. So we got it done. The stores, got to the stores. People loved it, but it's kind of like, will go down in infamy. So here are some of my sketches, and you can see again, a lot of like pleating that kind of mimics the movement and the shape of the waves. There's some of the tucking detail at the top. And this is the final collection that came out, the first collection. So obviously you can see, again, the colors that were drawn from the images. And I wanted to, have styles that were versatile, that a woman could wear in a lot of different occasions, different seasons, something that was kind of timeless but still fresh. And I feel like I achieved it, but you guys can judge for yourselves. So that's where I got my inspiration for my first collection. But a bigger question is, where does the fashion industry get their inspiration? Is it from the top down? Is it these designers and editors sitting in a room and just kind of deciding what the next trend will be? Or is it from the bottom up, which, are they getting inspiration from the people on the street? So in order to go through this, I'll just give you a quick lesson on the hierarchy of the fashion industry. So first you've got haute couture, and I'm sure a lot of you recognize these names. So haute couture, haute literally means high, so you're at the top tier of fashion. And so you see these names along with, there's a handful more that are basically awarded this status by a council in France. So everything is handmade, and you can see here some beautiful, intricately made details, and everything is by hand. So there'll be hundreds of man hours spent on these, and you're looking at garments that are hundreds of thousands of dollars often. Again, this is a picture in the atelier. So, everything is custom made for the customer that orders it. Get some more images. Just really beautiful, over-the-top details. And then the next tier down is ready to wear. And so you'll see some of the same names on here, some other names as well, but a lot of the brands that do have haute couture also have ready to wear. And so ready to wear, it sounds pretty simple. You can take it off the rack and wear it out of the store if you want. But there's still, thousands of dollars, still beautifully made garments. There's more machinery involved, but you can see, still very luxurious finishes, beautiful details and embellishments. And then you've got mass market. So these are brands and stores that you'll see in your local mall. So you might have seen Ralph Lauren on the ready-to-wear page, but here you see Polo Ralph Lauren. So it's just the volume is bigger, the quality is going to be a little bit lower, and so are the prices. So it's just a lot more accessible. It's probably what most people you see on the street are wearing. And I just want to touch on the bottom. You see Zara, H&M, and Forever 21, and they're part of a subcategory called fast fashion. So they're able to take the trends that you see on the runway and basically churn them out often faster than the actual designers are able to get them onto the selling floor. So, I remember when I started in the industry, it wasn't that long ago, it was really exciting to, kind of hear what was going on in the fashion shows. They're very exclusive. Nobody really knew what was happening in them. You never saw images until about 2 months later when you'd get these giant publications. They're called collections or collezioni, and they're like this big, this thick, and they have every image of pretty much every look that walked down the runway, whether it was Paris, New York, Milan, or London. So, that was kind of like the big exciting thing. And I mean, this is from 2006, so it's not that long ago. We had the internet. But now we have things like style.com and other websites where they can get the show up within minutes of it actually happening. And a lot of the brands actually do live streaming. So, it's like fashion for the people. It's great for all of us. Except for, now we have this issue where a lot of these fast fashion brands can actually get the looks to the floor before the actual designers. So here you see a runway shot. It could have gone down the runway, say in September. It's not going to hit their floors until January, February, and then you've got Zara who's going to get it on the floors in a few weeks. So just a couple of examples where you can see the inspiration. Inspiration, I guess, is used loosely. And then there's this idea of, street style, which is so big now. And I think people, designers have always been inspired by street style. But here you see these, casual, chic ladies. They're wearing their tennis shoes. They're very comfortable. And then you see this. And this is Chanel's Haute Couture show from last year, which took place in a Chanel supermarket. So you see her carrying like a head of lettuce there. And these are couture tennis shoes. So, you start to wonder, okay, well, who's influencing who? And then another example is the punk movement. So the punk movement started in like the 70s, and it was kind of this big anti-establishment movement. People are wearing torn jeans, they've got crazy hair, dark makeup, totally like unapproachable and scary, right? Well, that movement became the inspiration for everybody from Vivienne Westwood to Chanel and designers today. So again, another example of street style influencing the high-end designers. And so the interesting thing about all of this is, no matter whether you're at the haute couture level or you're the, $2.99 bargain basement, like, shirt from I don't know, Walmart or Target, there's a human element that cannot be removed from any part of the whole production process. So, with haute couture, obviously there's more hands and more hours spent, but even at the, low price places, the mass market, there's still a human element that it cannot be removed. So I just want to walk you through my process so you can see how many hands have touched, the shirt on your back or, the outfit that I'm wearing. So first, you've got the designer. Since I'm the designer, I get the inspiration, I create the looks, the collection, and kind of, put everything, all the ideas together. And then I take it to a pattern maker who is creating the patterns by hand for the first sample. You can see here, they're sketching it out, but it's a very collaborative process, and they're making the pieces to actually create the clothing. And then you've got the sample cutter. They're taking the pieces that the pattern maker made and cutting them out of the fabric. And then the sample sewer, who's sewing it all together. And then you've got a fit model. And so some people might say, oh, you can use a mannequin, you can cut this part out. But really, you can't. You need to see how it feels on a human body, see how it moves, and it's never the same when you just do it on a mannequin. And then you've got, grading. So grading is basically, if you've got a size 6 sample size, you've got this program, and I realize it's a computer, but it's being operated by a person. So she is grading the size 6 sample up to 8, 10, 12, or down to 0 to 4. And a lot of this, she needs to apply the rules because every designer has different grading rules. So even though I realize it's on a computer, it still needs to be managed by a human. And then you have marking, which is taking all of the pattern pieces for the different sizes and putting them on to a piece of paper that is the size of the fabric, so you're getting the most efficient use of the fabric. You don't have as much wastage. So this, again, I realize it's a computer program, but this really requires a human's involvement, because a lot of times if you have a print that's one way or needs to be matched, it all has to be laid in there manually. So then you go into production cutting. So again, you've got a person operating a machine. Production sewing, again, these things are not sewing themselves. A person has to have the skills to put it through the machines and put it all together. Pressing, which is like, I know it sounds silly, but is really, truly an art form. These people are pressing, I think, t-shirts, but if you've got a collar or a lapel and it's not pressed right, you will be able to tell the difference. So that really requires some really good skills. And then trim and hand finishes, all the buttons all have to be sewn on by hand. Quality assurance to make sure everything is up to par, everything's coming out at the right specs, the finishes are correct. Packing and shipping. And then any additional trim contractors. So like pleating is still done by hand. They, you can see the pattern here. They put the fabric on, they bake it, and they basically bake the pattern into the fabric. So you can see that, that was, I think, 14 different people touching one garment. And so just something to think about, I think people think, oh, well, the fashion industry, everybody's kind of like, I don't know, like draping fabric and sipping champagne. But it's actually, a beautiful combination of design, craft, and business. And just to give you some numbers, it employs 4.2 million people in the US and 26.5 million people globally. And these are all, really skilled workers, and they're really preserving a craft in each of the things that they do. So, the thing that kind of gets all this going is, again, inspiration. And so I just wanted to take you through some of the things that inspire me. Like I said, I've always got my eyes open. I'm always looking for inspiration, trying to let it, come to me. And really, I'm always taking pictures of things, and really nothing is too minute or mundane. So this is a 7-Eleven in Thailand. But I just loved, the vivid colors and the shininess of it. And I just thought, oh, this could be a great palette one day. And I just love how everything's organized in, in straight rows. This was at the Science Center. Again, this could be a great palette one day. I love the shine and the shapes that can be interpreted through different fabrics and finishes. This was my brother-in-law's creepy apartment hallway. But again, this is a great place to start a mood for a season. It's kind of, dark and shiny. You can use patent leather. And I'm constantly taking pictures of doors. My husband thinks I'm crazy. I haven't done anything with these yet, but I have a huge archive of door pictures. But you can see how beautiful they are. They're symmetrical, and they've got these beautiful architectural details, and the colors are amazing. And they're all different. And so you could even take, say these bolts on the door, that could be studs on a jacket, or different design details that can be incorporated and used as trims in a dress. This was a sign that was kind of hidden behind some scaffolding. Again, a beautiful palette and a beautiful stripe. Another architectural detail, so again, my mom was not too far off, and just love the color combinations, the variations of the stripes, and the prints, the patterns within the stripes. And this was a chair at a bar, but I saw it and I thought, oh my God, that would be so beautiful if I did it in strips of fabric and created this open lattice work on a jacket or a dress. And then this was a great pattern that was just on one of those fences that you roll down in front of the store to keep the burglars out, I guess. And then I love this shadow. I thought this could be a great embroidery motif or a border print. And then I love this as well because I thought, oh, this would be so cool to use as a variation on a dot. And I love that there's actually a grid structure within the lighting fixtures. And this was actually a woman that I chased down in the street. I was walking by, and she had this great robe on, and I just kept following her, and finally I said, okay, well, I'm just gonna ask her. She seems nice enough. And so I got a picture of this, and I just love the scale, the play on scale where you got the larger size and the smaller. And again, it kind of speaks back to that wood block technique that you saw in the hokusai piece. And then this is really creepy. So this is, most of my pictures that I take of other people are on the sly because I don't want to creep them out too much. So most of them are kind of blurry. But I just loved this girl. I loved the shapes that she was making with her body. And I just thought she had this I don't know, just a cool attitude and was kind of doing her own thing. And then this is actually a series of pictures from my honeymoon that I took 5 years ago with my husband. And so this was in India, and it's called Jantar Mantar, and it's in Jaipur, and it's this collection of astronomical instruments. So these huge, stone, they're all made out of mostly red sandstone and marble, and they're very modern and very angular, but they were built in the 1700s, and they each were used to basically either track the stars or track the sun or different planets. So I thought very forward-thinking, very modern, not only in concept, but also in shape and execution. So this kind of sundial inspired me to do these round embroidery, a dial embroidery. This giant, this thing was a huge bowl in the ground, and these strips, basically I reinterpreted as strips of fabric, and then also used a black and white draped stripe. Again, just beautiful shapes, just, I don't know, just amazing. And then here you can see for size and scale, you see this little guy down here. So you can see how impressive and magical this place could be. So from that, I came to my spring 2015 collection, which is still in the works, but getting there. So you can see, you know, the marble print was a direct reference to what was, you know, the materials that were used to create these structures. Those are the strips of fabric there. Lots of angular shapes. And even, you know, it was funny because I showed a few sneak peeks to my friend who's from India, and she said, "Oh, this looks like a sari. You know, it reminds me of a sari." And I thought, oh, well, that seems totally appropriate because it's inspired by India, but in a different way. So I just thought it was really interesting. So this is, you know, how I'm inspired. And I just wanted to show that nothing comes out of thin air. There's always some kind of inspiration that comes from somewhere, and that, you know, it leads to something, I don't know, exciting and different. And like I said, it's always nice to have something tangible at the end of, you know, after having that wonderful bit of inspiration. And so, you know, I just want to leave this with you. What is your inspiration? Where will you find it? And what will you do with it?